Building a data and AI platform is really fun, but at the end, you don't do it for fun, you do it to solve a business problem. So after you have built your medallion architecture, after you have created your gold level tables, you want to make the output accessible for your business, and there are different ways how you can do that within Databricks. If you simply want to build reports and expose them to your business users, you can do that within Databricks using the built-in AI BI dashboarding functionalities. If that is not enough for you and you want to have more flexibility in accessing the data, you could also build a Genie space within Databricks that lets you chat with your data in natural language. And if you want to build a custom web application to include even more interactivity and to also have more flexibility on the actual layouts, on the designs, on the visualizations, you could build a custom Databricks app for that purpose. In this video, we will look into all of those three options that I just mentioned, and we will implement them hands-on. This is actually the last part of an end-to-end Databricks project we are working on. So if you want to know all the context around this use case and about the data that we pre-processed, the machine learning model that we trained, then check out the last couple of videos. And now let's dive right into Databricks. There we go. We are back in Databricks. Before we start building our consuming applications, let's have a quick look into our catalog and the structure currently. So we built within the last couple of videos, if you're following the full series, we have built this Smart Claims Dev catalog. We have the landing schema, we have the bronze schema where we transformed all the data we need into the Delta format. Then we have the silver one where we cleaned this data and where we performed some data quality checks. And then we have the gold schema where we have our aggregated data and our joint data ready for use by business applications. And we have our machine learning model, which we trained in the last part, to automatically classify the severity of car crashes. As I mentioned in the intro, there are many ways to consume this data now, and we will mainly focus on dashboards, on Genie spaces, as well as on Databricks apps. Let's start with the dashboards. So to create a new dashboard within Databricks, we just go over here to dashboards and then we click on create dashboard. And that's already it. We can go ahead and get started. We get some instructions how to go about a new dashboard, and we call this claims investigation. And we already get the instructions right here. So first thing we would need to do is to add some data that is powering this dashboard. So let's do this. And basically what we do here is based on the tables that we have already created previously, based on the, for example, gold tables that are already registered in the Unity catalog, we can now do some queries on top and use this then for a visualization in the dashboard. So let's select here our catalog and one of the schemas. And here we start with this example. So we are accessing the Smart Claims Dev Gold schema, and we use this claim insights table that we produced in the last episode. And all we do here is we are counting the incident severity by the type, right? And now you see we added some parameters right here for the start and the end date so that we can do this dynamic. And let me quickly edit this and make this a date. And same for this one, that's also a date. And now we can, for example, specify the 1st of January here for the start date, and for the end date, we can specify basically today, right? And then we can run this query and check out the results right here. So this is just a normal SQL query that we created right here. And then we create this data set for the dashboard. And this one we can, for example, call claims summary. And now we can go back to the dashboard, and here we can actually visualize it, right? We can add a new visualization right over here. We can now either click everything together for us. So we can select the data set that we just created, right? The claim summary. This is the only one we have so far. And now I could manually basically select the visualization, the x-axis, y-axis, color, and so on and so forth. Or what I could also do is, it is already even giving me this as a suggestion, the incident types distribution. And this is actually what I want to do here. And then it automatically goes ahead and creates the visualization for me. I could further adjust that and say, okay, I don't want to have a pie chart. I actually want to have a bar chart. I could make it the other way around. And then I could also do the coloring better by specifying here that I want to have colors for the actual severity right here. And yeah, I could further customize this also for the coloring. And this is like a fully functional BI solution that you see right here. It's natively built into Databricks. You don't need like a separate license for any other BI tool. You can just do it right into here. And it also recently added quite a lot of new features. So we can also now set things like general themes right here, for example. We can do the dark mode, light mode switch. Now, this is what I have done already previously. And this is what you can see right over here. So I have created this dashboard with lots more visualizations based on our tables that we created within Databricks. And this gives us basically an overview about our whole claims that we analyzed within Databricks. And yeah, now I have this dashboard, which is great. So it shows me an overview of all the claims that have been already processed, right? It can also show me like outputs of my machine learning model, for example. But for this, we will use the Databricks apps in a second. But what else can we do, right? So we have this more or less static dashboard that is typically created by certain personas within your organization. And if you are a business user, maybe this answers most of your questions, but maybe you would like to know something specific that is not covered yet by this dashboard. Now, what you would have to do is reach out back to your data analysts, data engineers, and so on to include this into this dashboard, right? Maybe the data is not even there yet. Maybe there needs to be some data transformations first. Maybe it is already there, but it just takes time to create the visualization. This is where Databricks Genie comes into play. Genie is basically Databricks' managed solution to do text-to-SQL. So if we go ahead over here and we create a new Genie space, and the first thing we do is we connect it to our data sets. In this case, we could select our claim insights table, for example. Maybe we could also select our claim rules that we created earlier. We can select the claims, the customers, telematics information, all of that, and then create the Genie space. And now we can basically go ahead and ask questions in natural language to our Genie space. And Genie will convert this into a SQL statement and then execute it on a SQL warehouse. So it already provides me some sample questions that I could ask based on my input data set. Maybe we say like, give me an overview of how many claims were classified with the different severity types. And there we go, we got a response. So we see like for total loss, we have 1,200 claims. For trivial damage, it's just about 397 in our data set, right? And you can even look at the code and see what Genie did. And in this case, it's a fairly simple query, but you could also ask way more complex things and Genie would figure out what kind of query to apply, also how to join the different tables. If you added proper metadata into your Unity catalog, if you also added like primary key and foreign key constraints, for example, it would be capable also of figuring out how to do more complex joins on the data set and then give you the output right here. And it can also do visualizations. All right, this was basically the second possibility how to consume the data within Databricks. And now maybe the most exciting one is to build a Databricks app. For this, we go to the Compute tab right over here and we click into Apps. And first of all, before we look at the app that I already created beforehand for this use case, maybe let's look at the options if we start from zero. So we create the app right here. And then we get a bunch of different options for different frameworks. So for example, we could create a Streamlit app and we get a template for a data app, an interactive data app, for an OLTP database app, for example. And so for the different frameworks, we get different options here. To start with a simple example, let's choose Streamlit and let's choose Data App right here. And as a next step, we can provide different resources that the app will use. The resources right here are the different resources within Databricks that the app can then use to, for example, use a SQL warehouse to write a query or push down a query on top of your data set. So for this easy app, there is only the SQL warehouse as an option. If you would build like a custom app, for example, and maybe let's quickly see how this looks like. Here we can add way more resources, right? So here we can add not only a SQL warehouse, we can add a serving endpoint, for example, to easily access our machine learning model endpoint that we created. We can also add a database, which is an OLTP database that we will also look into in a second. And therefore, we can link our different resources within Databricks so that the app can very easily access. Now, let's go back to the simple example where we wanted to create a Streamlit data app. And we select our SQL warehouse. We click on Next, Next, and Install. Now we wait a couple of minutes for the app to actually deploy, and then we can access it. Now the app is running. So if we click into it, we will see how a sample app could look like. We authorize it. And there we go. This is like a sample app and how it could look like. So here we have some input fields to predict the fare on some sample taxi data set, right? And it's just like a web app now that we can use. We can expose it internally in our company and basically build on top of this template. Cool. Now we have seen the simple example. Now let's look into the app that I have built already for our use case, which is deployed right here. First of all, maybe before we look into the app, let's quickly check out the resources right here, because here it's a bit more advanced compared to what we have seen so far. So in this case, I have not only the SQL warehouse, but I have also a Postgres database and a serving endpoint. So you may be wondering about this database right here. So maybe let's quickly look into this and then we check out the actual app. So what I have done is I have created within Databricks a Lakebase database instance. And this is something that was just recently announced and is currently in public preview. In this Compute tab, you can create an OLTP database right here. And this is what I have done. This is a Postgres database and it's a relational database. And the reason I have built this is because if you're building web applications, you often would like to have a smooth user experience where the different data assets load very quickly. The problem is if we go always through the SQL warehouse to access our data, to, for example, visualize some customer information or claim information, you would always have some kind of latency because the SQL warehouse is more of an analytical compute option, right? It's operating on an object store and with data that is in a columnar format, right? In Delta and Parquet. This is where we would typically in applications use a relational database for. And this is why I created this OLTP database right here. And then what I can do here is I can go to my catalog. I can go to one of my tables. In this case, I'm choosing the customer claim policy telematics table, as this is the one that I would like to access from my front end. And I create a synced table out of it. And synced table means I create a Postgres table out of my Delta table. For this, I specify the name. I just name it exactly like this, but I put also Lakebase right over here. Then I select the database instance, and then I choose the primary key, which is the claim number in this case. And then I click on Create. And there we go. The sync is completed. And we also see this is now a synced table, which means this is a Lakebase table that we created right here. So out of our Delta table that could be accessed from the SQL warehouse, we created a relational database table, a Postgres table. And now we can, in our app, go right to the Lakebase database and access this table with very low latency and just quickly extract some kind of info out of that. To show you how this looks like, we can also here basically query this Lakebase database using the Postgres editor right inside Databricks. So you see here at the top now we are connected to Postgres, not the SQL server anymore, and we can run queries on top. And there we go, we get the results super fast, and this is now really going through the Postgres database and not through the SQL warehouse anymore. And this is what I have implemented in my app as well. So now we can finally maybe click into it and see what I have built here. We open it up right over here. And there we go. So this is the app that I have built for this specific use case. As you can see at the top here, it has two different modes. Basically, it has the customer mode, which we are in currently, as well as the admin mode. The customer mode is basically to mimic or to give you an idea how the claim submission process could look like for this use case. So the idea is the customer logs into this portal, or it could also be an app basically, and then they submit their claims right here. And this is what we're going to do now. And then we have the admin mode, and this we will see afterwards. This is basically for internal use, our app that we could use to further analyze all of the claims, all of the severities, for our internal people, basically to review all of the claims that did not pass all of those out-of-the-box checks that we perform. So now let's upload an image of a car damage, right? Let's choose one of the major ones. Let's choose maybe this one right here. This is a major damage here. So hopefully also our machine learning model should classify this properly. You also see here on the bottom right that we get this pop-up, and this is what I implemented basically. So just now we did the inference on this image that I uploaded, and we saw it was classified as major, right? And then here I provide some more information before I can submit the claim. So here let's put maybe 22222 as the policy number. We put in the accident location. So here maybe let's put in Munich. We specify the claim amount. So in this case, maybe this was a full crash as you have seen in the image. Maybe we say, okay, it's like 30,000. Accident date, let's say it happened today. And then for the self-assessed severity, so this is what I as a customer think this claim is. And here I would put major damage, right? And we already saw basically that our machine learning model thinks the same. Now we add a collision type. For this one, we put multi-vehicle. We say they were 3 vehicles involved. We can put some additional notes. And now I can basically submit. Now what happens? It's processing the claim. And there we go. This was quite fast. We already get the information that our claim has been approved. And what happened under the hood, it performed several checks here. So it checked the image severity, used our machine learning model to compare the self-assessed severity by the customer with the prediction from our machine learning model. We checked the policy amount, so those 30,000 that we inputted, this is still within the policy of the specific customer. We made sure that the policy date is still valid, and we even performed a speed check based on the telematics data to make sure that this customer was not driving too fast. And therefore, we completely automatically reviewed this claim and already give the information. You will receive your refund within 3 to 5 business days. Now let's copy the claim number right here, because now we will switch to the admin mode. And the admin mode is built, as I mentioned, for internal usage to further analyze the different claims. We see here we have the overview and the analysis tab. In the overview tab, first of all, we get an overview about the total claims, and then also how many were like a major damage, how many were like a minor damage, and so on and so forth. We can even filter here by severity type, for example, and this will also filter our claims list that we see right here. And this is just an overview for us to see, okay, I have these many claims with minor damage, for example, and I see the status of the different claims. So this is what I could implement within my company. All the claims that do not pass this out-of-the-box checks, they will become under review. And then I know, okay, I should check all the claims that do not pass those out-of-the-box checks. And then I could log in here as an employee and I could further investigate the different claims. Now on the analysis tab, if we click over here, we see even more details for each of the different claims. So here, one of the claims is pre-selected for a customer called Simon Scholz. We see the different severity checks for each of the different claims. So we see again the severity matches. We see the accident image uploaded by the customer here. It matches what our machine learning model predicted. In this case, for this claim, it's also all fine. So it was within the limit. The policy is fine. The speed check was fine. Now we could also search for the claim that we have just submitted. Let's do this. And you see this is the image that we uploaded. And you see again that we passed all checks. And this way I could analyze all of my claims. I would specifically look out for the claims that do not match, that do have some problems right here. So in this case, it's all super nice. But in other cases, I would maybe have a severity mismatch. I would have a policy amount that is over the amount that is allowed, right? And maybe a policy that is not even valid anymore. Cool. And that was it. That was all I wanted to show you for the Databricks apps part. And I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, that's pretty cool and quite flexible what we can build here with Databricks apps. All right, and that's already it. In this video, we have seen different options how we can consume the data that we produced and the machine learning models. We have seen how we can build dashboards with AI BI dashboarding functionality. We have seen how we can also speak with our data in natural language using Genie. And then we actually saw also how we can really build apps inside Databricks that use our different resources, that can use our SQL warehouse, that can use a Lakebase database, and that can also use a model serving endpoint to build really custom interactive apps that can be used in my organization to serve different kind of use cases and make the data more accessible. I hope you enjoyed the video and the whole series. Leave a comment what you would like to see next, and then I see you hopefully in the next video.